What is going on, everyone? I'm super excited to be back here with you guys for another trading session. Today, I'm going to show you the breakthrough system, which is basically the trading model that I use to acquire another 100K in funding from FTMO. So I think today, without further ado, let's dive straight into it. Now, if you have a look over here, this is just a small little snippet of the trade I'm going to break down for you guys. I'm going to show you exactly the model a little bit more in detail and define a little bit why I actually took this setup and how I acquired another $5,000 on the day, which allowed me to get my 10% on the FTMO challenge. But before we get into this, let me explain to you what I call the breakthrough system. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, what does this mean? I've referred to the PDX model in the past. Now, the breakthrough system basically encompasses both the PDX model, my actual trade management system, and exactly what I use on a daily basis. And that's how I use the same model every single day to acquire these $5,000 trades that I've been showing you. Now, if you have a look over here, you can see this was my trade execution on the M5 on the 29th of October, which was basically, yesterday. And you can see how I managed to actually bag another 5K on this, which resulted in me passing the challenge, right? Now, if you don't believe me, let me show you exactly those stats that I was talking about earlier. It just took me only 6 days to pass the account. My max loss on this account was only $1,000, and I was able to acquire the 10% with a consistency score of over 60%. Now, you might be thinking, oh, well, let's dive into the metrics. Let's see all of the details. And here is exactly the same sort of metric chart that I was explaining to you, and you can see how I actually started this account in the beginning of the month, and I only took 6 trades throughout the month, which allowed me to acquire this. So really specific in what I was looking for, and that's what I'm going to break through for you today. I'm going to show you exactly how the breakthrough system works and how this trade actually played out. Now, let's dive straight into it. So I'm going to actually just remove this all for you from the start. So if we're just looking at this blank canvas, right? Now you might be thinking to yourself, okay, cool. What does this mean? Like the breakthrough system, we got the PDX model one day, we got the breakthrough system. So this pretty much is again encompassing that same sort of 3-box method that I explained to you, right? This was my accumulation, which happened pretty much during Asia. Then I was looking for price to kind of manipulate down here in this area, which you could see over here how we were forming the setup, right, on the M15. And then basically what I was looking for was price to start distributing back to the upside. Now, there's a lot more to it. There's a lot more to the naked eye. I think a lot of you guys are picking up the system through my videos and, asking me questions like, how does this all work? Look, I'm going to be completely honest with you. There's a lot more that actually happens on a day-to-day basis, and that's okay. But I'm obviously showing you some small snippets into exactly kind of how I look, right? So if you have a look over here, you can see how price is kind of broken through here. We start trading into London Open. I can also see here that I've got my average daily range, and I can also see over here my previous 4-hour candle, right? So a couple of things that I start looking into is, okay, cool. For example, are we going to now kind of manipulate a little bit further? So in this instance, this would be kind of my golden pocket that I kind of look for on a daily basis, right? And that's basically for price to manipulate a little bit more down, and then we start to see that reversal. Now, we obviously had FOMC later that day, so it's really key to obviously try and make sure you get in and out of this trade as quick as possible, especially before, trying to gamble through FOMC, in my opinion. So I could see that this was the low forming over here coming into London. This was my potential manipulation zone, so we can just mark that out over here. And you can see how I was then waiting for price action to basically come into this area, right, which was around 1.6230, and really try and see some sort of aggressive move to the upside from here. Now, if you remember that 3-box pattern I was explaining to you, this would have been my sort of manipulation area, right? And then I was looking for price to kind of distribute back to the upside. And some real key target areas for me in this instance would have actually been my Asia high. Now, something that I also use on a daily basis is called the fixed volume profile, right? So what I try to do is I try to wait and see where price might actually form that sort of low of the day. And if you have a look over here, you can see how price action actually forms this low of the day here around 1.6100, right? So we can just go mark this out as our low over here. And now you can see how I've got my Asia range high. So what I try to do is I use my Asia range high, and I mark out the low of the day, and I try find some potential areas where we might either struggle to break through or we might potentially pop into, right? So for example, you can see how we've got some nodes sitting up here, and you can also see how we've got some sort of volume distribution sitting over here. This is basically just explaining where all the buyers and sellers are sitting on a daily basis, right? Now, I knew in order for me to actually get a valid entry on this, I needed to see price action break above here quite strongly, some sort of close above, maybe distribute back to the upside after maybe retesting something. Maybe there's a fair value gap or displacement in here, right? And then we see price action kind of push up like that. So that's basically what I was looking for. Now, a simple way I kind of like to do this is I would have marked this out as my high because my fractal indicator is telling me this, right? So this would have been my protected high in this instance. I would have waited for price action to break through, which we did quite convincingly. You can also see how we start to run into a bit of trouble over here with these nodes that are sitting around here. Now you can see there's a bit of price indecision. I would have then, or in this instance, basically what I did is I waited for price action to return to this area over here. I could also see that this was my sort of target for the day, which was around 2 to 1. And if I just mark that out over here, you can also see how we start to form this displacement on the M15 right over here. So I knew for a fact that if anything, price was going to return back down into this area over here, and potentially we could see some sort of manipulation and distribution back to the upside, right? So something like that. And you can see how the 4-hour candles are actually forming on this side over here. So what I did then is I just, pretty much set a buy limit entry, waited for price to come back down, which it did tag me in the end. And if I actually mark this out with the Fibonacci tool as well, you can kind of see how price is all starting to line up. I think it actually comes down and mitigates this just after. So you can see how price is coming, eventually trades into here, rejects the 78% level, and then we start to pop up. So I'm just going to quickly clear this so you can see a little bit more clearly. And then you can also see what I actually was looking at. Now, this is pure clean class from euro dollar. Now, basically what I'm looking for, right, is in this sort of candle, this next 4-hour candle, I'm looking for some sort of expansive move back to the upside, something like that. And that would obviously get me my sort of 2-hour on the day, which would obviously allow me to get out also before FOMC. And if you play this out for the rest of the day, you can see price eventually gets there. We managed to kind of break straight through this Asia high over here and these sort of protected nodes, which was actually something I was a bit nervous about at one point because my 2-hour was just above this in the end. But yeah, that's pretty much exactly the trade that I used to bag that extra 5K on the day and eventually actually managed to secure that FTMO par. So if you want to learn more about the breakthrough system and how you trade the system, or how I trade the system, and you want one-on-one coaching on exactly how you can learn this in more detail and kind of get a bit of grips with it, because it is a system that is quite difficult, that if you try and take this on your own and run with it, you might run into some probability areas where you might find the strike rate is not really that high. And we've obviously modified and tweaked this mechanical system over the last couple of years. So if you want to learn more about the breakthrough system, check out the link below, and remember to like and subscribe. Cheers, guys. I'll see you in the next one.